Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, President Joe Biden continues to tour areas damaged by Hurricane Helene as the death toll tops 200. Plus, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are back in battleground states as we get closer to the November election.
And we're seeing mainly sunny skies and temperatures are in the upper 70s and low 80s. Now the question is, how long will the nice weather last? Details in a few minutes.
Dedicated to southern and eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. The death toll now tops 200 in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. The storm roared ashore 1 week ago today in northwestern Florida as a strong Category 4. President Biden is continuing his tour of devastated areas with visits to Florida and Georgia today. CBS's Nicole Valdez has the latest.
Helene is now the deadliest hurricane to hit the U.S. mainland since Katrina.
Unfortunately, we have up to 33 fatalities in the state of Georgia right now,
bringing the overall death toll to more than 200, with hundreds more still missing. President Biden is visiting Georgia and Florida for a first-hand look at the destruction. During one stop, he walked amid the damage in northwest Florida, near where Helene made landfall a week ago today. Across the region, people are struggling. Survivors are doing what they can to get the essentials. This man is bottling river water to use at home.
You gotta do what you gotta do. That means use this to flush your toilet, drink the bottled water.
We know people need drinking water, they need food, they need household supplies, they need personal hygiene supplies, they need cleaning supplies. And that effort is continuing, and we still need people around the nation to consider helping us and bringing us those resources.
6,700 members of the National Guard, along with at least 1,000 active duty troops, are distributing food and water and helping with rescue and cleanup efforts across 6 states. Mule teams are delivering insulin to remote mountain towns in North Carolina.
Good girl.
And through all the misery, there have been some moments of hope. Firefighters in Kingsport, Tennessee rescued this dog that had been stuck in a tree for days. Nicole Valdez, CBS News.
PowerOutageUS.com reports the number of homes and businesses without power slipped below 1 million for the first time since last weekend. Crews from across the nation have been deployed to help restore power.
We're seeing a mixture of sun and clouds out there at this hour, and temperatures right now are in the upper 70s and low 80s. This is the scene at the London Corbin Airport. You can see a little bit of cloud cover out there. Otherwise, mainly sunny skies. Temperatures right now in London's at 82, Manchester, or 81 in London, 82 in Manchester, 79 Hazard, 78 in Jackson, Prestonsburg's at 75. Same story in Pikeville as well as Grundy. And we are warmer now as compared to 24 hours ago. 16 degrees warmer in Hazard, 14 degrees warmer in Pikeville, 10 degrees warmer in London, 13 degrees warmer in Williamsburg. All is quiet right now on live pinpoint Doppler radar, and this is going to get a break as we go throughout the next several hours, and in some places even into the day on Friday. South of the Howell Rogers Parkway, though, not ruling out a rain chance, but we'll see mainly clear skies as we go throughout the overnight hours into the first part of your Friday, with temperatures in the upper 50s and low 60s, and that's where we'll be when you wake up in the morning. 55 in Irvine, 59 Somerset, 57 Manchester, 61 in Hazard. Harlan will check in with an overnight low of 64 degrees, but we're going to cool off, and I'll tell you when in the first alert forecast in a few minutes. Steve.
Eric, thank you. The January 6th riot and former President Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the election are taking center stage, with Trump campaigning in Michigan while Vice President Kamala Harris is in Wisconsin looking for support from disenfranchised Republican voters. CBS's Bradley Blackburn has the latest campaign news from New York.
Vice President Kamala Harris arrived in Ripon, Wisconsin, the birthplace of the Republican Party, to try to persuade GOP voters to choose her instead of Trump. Former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney is campaigning with her today, making the pitch that former President Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election should disqualify him from serving again. In a newly unsealed court filing, special counsel Jack Smith alleges Trump resorted to crimes in an effort to stay in office.
We did much better in 2020 We won. We won. We did win. It was a rigged election.
Trump repeated the false claim that he won the election. He urged his supporters to vote in order to avoid a repeat of 4 years ago.
You go out and you have to we have to be too big to rig. You know that. Too big to rig. Turn out and vote in record numbers. Too big to rig.
Harris has made reproductive rights a centerpiece of her campaign, and one surprising Republican is echoing that message.
Individual freedom is a fundamental principle that I safeguard.
Former First Lady Melania Trump appeared to show support for a woman's right to choose in a video posted on Twitter, touting her upcoming book. It was Trump's Supreme Court that overturned Roe v. Wade, and he says it should be up to the states to decide their own abortion laws. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Vice President Kamala Harris has vowed to sign a bill making abortion legal nationwide if elected. The Israeli military has warned people to evacuate a city and other communities in southern Lebanon that are north of a UN-declared buffer zone. Israel's military said it killed 15 Hezbollah militants in South Lebanon Thursday and bombed Beirut after its forces suffered their deadliest day on the Lebanese front in a year of clashes with the Iran-backed group. A day after Iran fired more than 180 missiles into Israel, Israel said on Wednesday 8 soldiers were killed in ground combat in South Lebanon. An air raid alert was issued twice in the Ukrainian capital as NATO chief Mark Rutte arrived in Kyiv on his first official trip since becoming the alliance's Secretary General. Together with the Ukrainian foreign minister, Rutte commemorated fallen Ukrainian soldiers by visiting a memorial wall at St. Michael's Cathedral. The NATO chief reiterated the alliance's pledge that Ukraine would one day be a NATO member. The Justice Department and officials with Microsoft say they have disrupted Russian hacking operations. They say they seized more than 100 web domains used by a Russian intelligence agency. The agency reportedly used them to try and hack current and former U.S. officials, civil society groups, and Russians living in the U.S. According to U.S. officials, the sweeping hacking campaign sought to gather intelligence on U.S. and allied efforts to support Ukraine. Lawmakers are continuing to try to address what they are calling a housing crisis in America. WYMT Washington Bureau correspondent Ashani Ford tells us about a new grant proposal.
Right now, lawmakers are working to expand a federal grant program to incentivize rural homeowners to build additional housing on their own property. Now, the hope here is that this will not only address the housing crisis, but that it will also have a positive effect on our economy overall.
The Maine State Housing Authority has estimated there's a shortage of 84,000 units in Maine. So if you have that shortage, as I mentioned, that's going to drive prices up.
Maine Senator Angus King says it's going to drive up the number of people experiencing homelessness across the country. The National Low Income Housing Coalition estimates affordable housing units are seeing a record shortage of 7.3 million units. King is joining other lawmakers to help find a solution.
We've got to be thinking about how do we bring modern technology to the construction of houses in order to bring the cost down. And that's one of the reasons this farmhouse to workforce bill is so exciting.
A bipartisan group of lawmakers are working to approve $200 million in funding to increase grant amounts for rural homeowners who are willing to be a part of the solution. If approved, homeowners would receive a grant of up to $100,000 to expand their own home or independently build a tiny home on their property.
If we're renovating an existing big old house, you don't need to build a new roof or a new foundation. You've got to do repairs and renovations inside, but that's a way of driving the construction costs down per unit, and that's what we're trying to do.
The Farmhouse to Workforce Housing Act includes a required landlord education program to help homeowners learn how to oversee rental housing, which ultimately will put more money in their pockets. And Senator King suggests other states experiencing housing shortages should look into similar options. Reporting from the nation's capital, I'm Ashanti Ford.
Amazon is once again hiring 250,000 workers for the holiday season. The number matches last year's holiday hiring. The full-time, part-time, and seasonal roles will be across customer fulfillment and transportation. Amazon says all seasonal workers earn at least $18 an hour. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, there are multiple scams targeting elderly folks. How you can help protect your loved ones.
And in the world of weather, we're seeing temperatures in the 70s and 80s, but cooler weather is in the forecast. Details in a few minutes. Stay with us.